Welcome. Today, we're diving into a really powerful passage from the heart of the Quran, from Surah Yā-Sīn. We'll be exploring verses 13 to 30, drawing from some wonderful material compiled by Mir Ali Shah. And this is a story, it's a timeless one really, about what happens when truth shows up, right in the middle of the public square.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So, before we really get into the verses, I want you to hold this question in your mind, because the story we're about to hear isn't just some ancient tale. Think of it more like a mirror. It's a drama that unfolds not just in history, but inside each and every one of us.
All right, let's begin. What's so interesting is that the Quran kind of zooms out here. The earlier verses of the Surah focus on the private state of the heart, but here the camera moves to the town square. It's showing us this archetypal pattern of how a society responds when guidance arrives. The story kicks off with a command: present an example, a likeness. And notice, the town is completely anonymous. It's not named. And that's so crucial, right? Because this isn't about one specific historical event. It's about a pattern that can and does happen anywhere, at any time, even today.
So you see, guidance is persistent. It doesn't just give up. The first two messengers are rejected, so a third is sent. Now, this isn't about overpowering people with force or numbers. It's about increasing the clarity of the message, about confirming the truth. And their message is so simple and direct. We have been sent to you. So how does the town respond to this clear, reinforced message? Well, the Quran shows us this incredibly predictable pattern of resistance. It starts with simple disbelief, but it escalates pretty quickly. Now, listen closely to their objection here. On the surface, it sounds like a theological argument, doesn't it? They're denying the revelation itself. But if you look just under the surface, the real issue is actually social. Their real hang-up was that these messengers were only human beings like us. You see, to accept a profound truth from someone ordinary, someone without a fancy title, without wealth, without power, that would mean admitting that their whole social structure, their whole hierarchy, was totally irrelevant in the face of God's reality. And that was just too disruptive for them to handle. And here's where it really escalates. When their arguments don't work, they turn to superstition, calling the messengers a bad omen. And when that doesn't work, the mockery and dismissal turn into straight-up threats of violence. It's a classic tactic, really, when an established power feels threatened by a truth it can't control. But right here, just as the tension is about to snap, the whole story pivots. A new voice enters the scene. And it doesn't come from the center of town, from the seat of power. It comes from the complete opposite direction. From the margins, the outskirts, the farthest part of the city, a single man comes running. Just picture that for a second. The imagery is so powerful. Everyone else is stuck in this standoff, frozen in their rejection, and this one person is compelled to move with urgency, running towards the truth. And his argument is just beautiful in its simplicity. It's not some complex philosophical treatise. It comes straight from the heart. First, he points to the messenger's sincerity. They're not asking for money. Then he asks a question of just basic gratitude. Why wouldn't I worship the one who created me? He points out the obvious. Their idols are powerless. And then he just makes his own simple, powerful declaration of faith. You know, Islamic tradition actually gives this man a name: Habib the Carpenter. A craftsman, a man of the people. He had no social standing, zero authority, and absolutely no one to protect him. His courage wasn't born from status. It came purely from his conviction.
For this testimony, the townspeople kill him. But what happens next? This is the most critical part of the whole story. The moment he passes, he's told, enter paradise. But his first thought, it isn't about himself, it isn't about his victory. It's this deep, compassionate wish for the very people who just murdered him. If only my people knew. His heart was already in a place of peace. Okay, so that's the outer story. Now let's see how this transforms into this profound spiritual metaphor. For centuries, Sufi masters have read this story as a map of our own inner landscape, a drama that plays out inside every single one of us. This right here, this is the key. The city, that's the self, our inner world, crowded with all our habits and desires. The messengers, those are the moments of divine guidance that come to us again and again. The crowd that resists, that's our own inner resistance, our ego, our fears, our comfort zones. And that man who runs, he is our conscience. The poet Rumi, he just captures the feeling of that inner crowd perfectly with this line.
When that one single candle, the light of our conscience, enters the dark hall of our old habits and ego, everything else inside us panics. It fears the change. It fears the fire of truth.
He runs because for the conscience, once a truth is really, truly recognized, standing still is just unbearable. There's an urgency to it. So the story of him being silenced, that symbolizes our ego's desperate attempt to shut that inner voice down, to go back to the familiar, comfortable darkness.
So you see, this ancient story isn't just something for us to analyze. It's really a call for us to look inward. It's asking us to examine the city within ourselves and ask, which voices are we actually listening to?
So let's ask ourselves this first question. Just think of a time when you knew something was right, but because no one else said a word, you stayed quiet too. Psychologists call it the bystander effect. The Quran might call it a form of heedlessness.
And how about this one? How many times have we told ourselves we're being wise or prudent by staying out of something, when really, deep down, we're just choosing the comfort of safety over the courage of our convictions?
And finally, this. Don't think about changing the entire world. Just for a moment, imagine what it would feel like to act on your conscience in one small moment, to stand up for a truth you know, even if you feel like you're the only one running.
Because this is the ultimate lesson from the man who ran. His story teaches us that in those moments of moral clarity, our silence is a choice. It's never neutral. And that real courage, the courage of the conscience, it never, ever needs a crowd to back it up. And so we end with this prayer, O caller of hearts, do not let all the noise inside of us drown out your reminders. Make us among those who run, not those who just stand by and watch. Amin.